Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace. Coming up, President-elect John Mahama justifies plans to remove some taxes like e-levy as he downplays impact on revenue mobilization.
Central bank financed it, and so it meant that we financed the budget from our own resources, and so we need to go back to that. Already in the IMF program, the program has stopped central bank.
More from him ahead. Also, CD expected to be biggest beneficiary as a result of the smooth general elections and expected transfer of power to a new administration. My name is Darryl Carr. Thanks for being with us. Details coming up. All right, we are watching the marketplace. We want to take you to the Greater Coalition Center where we understand there are a few developments. We want to connect with our reporter over there, James Aveji. As you can see in your shots, NDC supporters are currently present at the Coalition Center. Of course, there are a few more constituencies that are yet to declare results, notably at Blekuma North. We want to take you there to find out the latest.
Well, Darryl, if you can hear me, what you're seeing on the screen there are supporters of the NDC. Really tense atmosphere here at the EC regional office in Accra here at Ridge. Now, let me take you back a bit because what we see here wasn't the situation about some 2 hours ago, but this was sparked when the supporters who had been prevented from access to the premises of the Electoral Commission heard the news that there was information from the national headquarters of the Electoral Commission informing the constituency EC executives to halt the collation of the Blekuma North constituency result that started yesterday. Now, yesterday, one of the issues were resolved. Now, as you can see, they are now retreating. The military has to be called in to help the police to calm the situation. And you see, they are now retreating back to the barricade at the roadside. Earlier, that is where they were, until they had the information that the EC chair from national level had given information for the process to be halted, for which reason they broke their way back to the entrance of the Electoral Commission. The information or the issue is that when the coalition was ongoing yesterday in the evening, both parties, NDC and MPP, had agreed that the entire results from the 281 polling stations of Blekuma North should be recollated. And so the process had started with big waves from the NDC manning that process from the National Democratic Congress. We had people here yesterday, including lawyer Abraham Amaliba, Edu Jitameklo, as well as Sam George and Mr. Otokuno, and Alfred Agbeshiwoyoma, all of those people manning the process for the NDC. The MPP had Mr. Fred Owari as well as Peter Menu, all of them together with the two candidates, Irabna Obing of the NDC as well as Nana Ekwia Efrie of the NPP manning the process. Before that was halted because it was late. They returned here today at about 10 a.m. to begin the process. At about midday, the process was halted because there was an information from the Electoral Commission head office for all coalition processes to be halted. And that is what agitated the crowd here to actually try to break into the EC headquarters, regional headquarters here, to demand that the process actually continues. The police as well as the military had a tough time getting the people not to have access to the EC headquarters. It was tough for them to also allow the NDC parliamentary candidate, Irabna Obing, vehicle to get access to the EC regional headquarters. And so just a while ago, the EC chair herself, Jean Mensah, was on the phone with Peter Boama Otokuno, giving the instruction that she has directed the process to resume. Now, the reason we have been told for which the process had to stall, according to Sam George and Peter Boama Otokuno, is that the EC regional director sent an information to the EC headquarters that she is not safe looking at the crowd here. We cannot confirm that actually from the EC regional chair herself, but that's what we've been told from leadership of the NDC, for which reason the process had to be halted. We told that the EC regional chair had the information, that she is not safe here. I wish we could speak to the people, but some of the things they've been telling to the microphone are not things we can't put on air, and that's the reason why I am finding it difficult to speak to the party supporters, because the things they've been saying to the media are not things we can't put on air. They are quite flammable, for which reason I am trying my very best not to speak with them. And so when we've been interacting with them, they are demanding that the coalition concludes today and their candidate Irabna Obing from the NDC declared winner of the Ablekuma North constituency. That's all they've been demanding, for which reason they've been here the whole of yesterday as well as this morning to demand that the coalition process actually continues and ends and their candidate declared. If their candidate is not declared, they are not going back to their various houses. In fact, yesterday evening, as at 8-9 o'clock, Abby Bright from the NDC had to take her time to calm them and ask them to go back home. And that is what we are experiencing today. They are only demanding that the process and their civic responsibility, civic right that they have exercised in the Ablekuma North constituency shouldn't be taken for granted, and the process be ended and their candidate declared winner. And so relative calm has restored now, as all the candidates have returned to both candidates. At least I saw the NDC's candidate Irabna Obing returning to the offices of the EC for the coalition process to begin. But that process cannot continue as we speak if the NPP candidate is not back. Hearing the information, she has also returned. What I cannot confirm is whether she's back, because I did not see her coming back to the EC regional office for the coalition process to continue. I can tell you that at about 219 out of the 281 polling stations have been completed. And as part of the process, both parties are supposed to produce their pink sheet of the various polling stations. The EC has been able to get the result for some of the polling stations out of the 218. The EC do not have the result of over 80 of the 281 of them. And so the ground rule that was set yesterday was that if both parties can't find the pink sheet of the various polling stations, they put it together. If the numbers match, they proceed to admit the numbers of those polling stations and continue the process. And so that is how they have been doing yesterday to collate up to 219 before the process had to stall because it was late. And the NDC leadership of the NDC are already seated in there waiting for the NPP candidate to also make her way here for the process to continue. And so the initial chaos you saw was because the process had to be suspended for the second time, in addition to what we saw yesterday. And so as you can see for now, the supporters are calm now, and we're hoping that we'll return to the office to resume the process and hopefully get a candidate declared for Blekuma North. The race has been between two candidates, the NPP and the NDC. Irabna Obin of the NDC, as well as Nana Efrie and Nana Ekwia Efrie of the NPP. We'll be returning back to the office to see what the process holds for the rest of the day. But for outside here, calm has been restored now. The police as well as the military have been able to restore calm here, and we'll be going back to continue the process as we see what it will hold for the two candidates.
Thanks so much, James Abeji, live for us at the Greater Accra Regional Coalition Center. Just a bit of a recap. So supporters of the NDC have massed up at the Coalition Center, obviously because there was a suspension of collation of results for Blekuma North. As James has been reporting, the EC was on a call with both political parties. Collation is resuming any moment from now. We'll keep monitoring events over there. The security personnel have been able to restore some calm, at least from what we have seen. We will go back there if there are any more developments to report. Back to the news we are covering for you on the marketplace. President-elect John Mahama has said it's time to reset the economy after formally being declared as winner of the 2024 presidential election. But what has the president-elect promised in relation to the economy? Here's George Yaffe with highlights.
When it comes to the economy, President-elect John Mahama, based on the party's manifesto and interviews, has promised to reset the economy that he believes will put it on a strong footing and stabilize it as well. The president-elect has spoken about holding a national economic dialogue within his first 121 days that would help create a 4-year fiscal consolidation program as part of his strategy to rebuild the economy. One can talk about his plan to renegotiate the IMF program, even though there are no clear timelines to this. There is talk about the 24-hour economy, which the president-elect believes will be a strategy that will be operated on 3 shifts and expand the economy to help create more jobs. On taxes, the president-elect has promised to abolish electronic levy on mobile money transactions, COVID levy, 10% levy on betting, and the emissions levy. All of these things will be done within the first 90 days in office. The president-elect has also promised that within the first 3 months, he will review some taxes and levies on vehicles and imported equipment. There is also talk about the 2025 budget that will be presented in April next year that would aim at supporting more small businesses within the economy.
While President-elect John Mahama has justified plans to remove some taxes, he says that proposed expenditure cuts by his government and expanding the tax net would deal with the revenue gaps. He disclosed this in an earlier interview with the Global South World News Network.
I remember that in our final year in office in 2016, we did 0 central bank financing. And so it meant that we financed the budget from our own resources. And so we need to go back to that. Already in the IMF program, the program has stopped central bank financing. So that's a good start. But we need to undertake some fiscal reforms, bring down expenditure, and increase revenues. Not increase revenues by just adding additional taxes, but looking at non-tax revenues, smart borrowing, so that we don't continue to increase the public debt. And so we can set up debt escrows, do BOTs for infrastructure. I think that a combination of all that would make things much better.
So how are you going to increase revenues? How is Ghana going to grow while reducing this debt burden?
Well, one thing everybody says is extend the tax net to cover more people. And I think that it is possible to do that. There's a whole huge informal sector that is paying no taxes. I mean, there are all kinds of professionals, artisans and things who are getting paid every day and they don't contribute their quota to the taxes. So we'll find smart ways of getting them into the tax. That's the first one. And then the second one is to cut government expenditure. I mean, at a point, this government had 125 ministers, you know, and I mean, that clearly is excessive. Even now, they have 87 ministers. And so we have promised that we're going to cut that down to 60 ministers. We're going to cut down the number of political appointees. I mean, when you do that, you're cutting down the number of houses you have to provide for these appointees. You're cutting down the number of vehicles you have to buy for them. You're cutting down the amount of fuel they have to use. You're cutting down the electricity and utility bills that you normally provide for such people. And so government must show by itself that it is prepared to cut expenditure before it calls on other people to make sacrifices. So cutting expenditure is one of the things. Then eliminating waste is another. There's a lot of waste in the government sector. For instance, every year we have the Auditor General's report, and it shows that we lose anything between 13 and 15 billion cedis every year to malfeasance and malpractices. And so one of the things we want to do is the fight against corruption, get special courts to try people who are indicted in the Auditor General's report so that it can be a deterrent to others not to do the same thing.
Well, so it's time for the exchange. Our guest this afternoon, Kenneth Thompson, who is a former CEO of Dalex Finance, thought leader, business and economic matters, also fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much. You had the President-elect John Mahama talking about his economic plans. He's promised a reset of the economy. Where should this reset start from?
Well, can you hear me? Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you and to your listeners. You see, every opportunity we get as business leaders and politicians to talk about this election and the mandate is an opportunity to soberly reflect on what it means. This election, you know, the mandate, it carries the hopes and aspirations of Ghanaians, millions of Ghanaians, particularly young people. I mean, I've traveled up and down the country, and what do most Ghanaians want? They say, if I'm able to work, I'm able to find work, I'm able to pay my rent, my children's school fees, I have some health, have somewhere to live, I can save a little, I can send some money to my parents if they're still alive, and I can save a little bit. Yeah. And so that sober reflection needs to come. We need to understand that. And then really, when it comes to resetting the economy, the government needs to carry all of us along. And it's all about the tone that is set. It's the tone at the top. And it's very simple. If the government comes in, we start the right tone, new four-wheel drives. We start to see huge convoys. We start to see lavish inauguration party. It's the wrong tone. If the government comes and is using the old cars, it puts the ministers and their apparatchiks in Toyota Fortuners or pickups. If we don't see them on business class, if they go into economy and premium, economy or economy premium at best, then we are setting the right tone. And you know, Ghanaians will react to what we can see, what we can hear, and what we can feel. And my pet hate, this is a pet hate that I hope the government will address. When I sit in traffic and I see some outrider going past me with some honcho in the back, I feel disrespected and humiliated. It's the wrong tone. So it's the tone that the government sets. And if we see and we feel and we hear it's the right tone, we'll all fall in line. It's all about the tone that is set. That's what
I want to pick up from there. You talk about the right tone and carrying the business community along. I mean, one of the major frustrations of the business community with the Kufuor administration was that they were not listening enough. And so in terms of hope, what are the expectations amongst the business community and what are the lessons we can pick from the experiences of today?
You know, the only salvation for this country in terms of growth and development is the private sector. Even communist China is the private sector. The private sector must be allowed to work. I remember when they came up with NAPCO, CAPCO, all those. It's not going to work. You know, the private sector is the only sector that can make this country work. Nuisance taxes, the judiciary system. I mean, there's another one that I was thinking, nuisance taxes, judiciary system, regulations. They all frustrate business. And, you know, the government must be careful not to set itself to fail. There is some low-hanging fruit that it must deal with. And, you know, it must deal with. And then see about how it can provide critical infrastructure, power, water, roads, and let the private sector work. This is the only way this country will survive. I mean, how many times should we say this? How long I'm going to say this? Is the private sector, which is the engine of growth. So the government must be careful not to set itself to fail and must remember that it's carrying the aspirations of millions of people. It's the private sector. There's no other sector that will make this country work. It's the private sector.
Well, we know taxes were a major concern for the private sector. The President-elect has talked about removing some taxes, cutting down on expenditure, expanding the tax net. How do you think this would go a long way to boost the economy and create a conducive environment for the private sector?
I don't think, you know, in your last clip, the president talked about, first I'll deal with, you know, widening the tax net. I don't think as Ghanaians we're necessarily adverse to paying taxes. But we can see that our taxes are being wasted. That's the one issue. Businesses are not adverse to paying taxes, but businesses are adverse to not knowing what the regulations are and paying nuisance taxes. In any case, if you're, and I'm paraphrasing Churchill, it says, taxing a nation to prosperity is like holding a man standing in a bucket and trying to lift themselves up by the handle. It's not about taxes. It's let the private sector work, let the regulations be clear, and collect your taxes. And make sure you carry the people along. That's the key thing. It's not about, you know, I move away from trying to say remove e-levy. That's not the issue. You can do that, but that's not the issue. That's not the issue. Be very clear what you're doing with your money. Be very clear what taxes are being paid. Allow the private sector to work. That's all you have to do.
We are seeing very positive sentiments as in relation to the city. People feel that with the smooth elections, the city is stabilizing a bit. But how do we solve the city's challenges going forward? It was a major issue this year.
You see, the issue of a city is a fundamental one. And, you know, it's a matter of supply and demand. There is more demand for dollars than we have. So the price will change. And unless we solve for fundamentals, which is to increase the supply of dollars and reduce the demand for dollars, increase the supply, then the city will depreciate. And solving the fundamentals is not an issue of, it will be done within the short and medium term. We can't solve it overnight. The issue for business is the rate at which it depreciates. That's the issue. And if the government sets the right tone, if the government makes the people believe that it's doing the right things, if the government is living within its means, people will no longer be desperate to hold dollars and will work with the city because they can plan. But unless people can plan, you know, it's a zero-sum game. We have to be able to trust government. We have to be able to know that if the city is, I don't know, 1 to 15 today, maybe 1 to 15.5 at the end of the year, whatever. But we must have confidence, and confidence is plays a large part in the value of a currency. And as at now, we do not have confidence in the way we're being administered. So we've got to set the right tone. We've got to say, and it's got to start from time zero, and carry the people along.
All right. Final question to do with the IMF program. I mean, the president-elect sort of hinted during the campaign that he could probably renegotiate aspects of the IMF program. You think that's a good idea?
Well, it's possible. I don't know what's going to be done. You see, but you know, the IMF is not a silver bullet. It's never meant to be. All it is some money to tide you over until you can get your affairs in order. So you may say, okay, please probably give me some more time or give me some more money. But it doesn't solve the fundamental issue. So the IMF renegotiating, yes, but that is, for me, it's a red herring. For me, it's not on my table at all. For me, it's not on the table of business leaders. For me, it's about government setting the right tone, government doing the right things, the expenditure. Because what we see, what we feel is here, it's exactly what we do. And this is a great opportunity for the income administration to set the right tone and every day soberly reflect on what that mandate means. Because it's tied to the dreams and aspirations of Ghanaians, especially the young people between 18 and 35.
Set the right tone, carry the people along. Thank you so much, former Chief Executive of Delex Finance, Ken Thompson. I appreciate your time with us here on the Marketplace. We'll link up probably sometime soon. I appreciate it. Thank you. And that's the Marketplace, everyone. Thanks for watching. There is more news on our website, myjournline.com/business. CD expected to be biggest beneficiary from smooth elections. Also, President-elect Mahama justifies plans to remove nuisance taxes. You can get the latest from there. We want to leave you with a summary of international business news here on the Marketplace. We will be back same time tomorrow.